It was a sweltering afternoon at Los Angeles International Airport, one of the busiest travel hubs on the planet. Outside, the blazing sun beat down on lines of cars waiting to drop off hurried passengers. Inside, the terminals buzzed with an almost electric energy, voices overlapping, luggage wheels clicking across polished floors, and the steady drone of announcements reminding everyone to keep their belongings in sight. Among the sea of travelers hustling through the main concourse was a man who, at first glance, seemed entirely unremarkable. He wore a simple black t-shirt, well-worn jeans, and scuffed sneakers. In one hand he held a small boarding pass, and over his shoulder hung a nondescript duffel bag. Despite blending into the crowd, this traveler moved with a distinct calm that contrasted sharply with the hectic pace around him. Yet this was no ordinary passenger. Beneath his low-profile demeanor stood Elon Musk, billionaire entrepreneur, visionary behind Tesla and SpaceX, and one of the most influential figures in the modern business world. Despite his fame, Elon preferred to travel alone, shunning the entourages and VIP privileges so often used by celebrities and high-profile executives. As he approached the security checkpoint, Elon noticed the lines were moving painfully slowly. Families with strollers, business people juggling laptops and phones, and vacationers loaded with suitcases all waited their turn. Elon joined the queue like everyone else, boarding pass and ID ready in his hands, displaying none of the impatience some might expect from a man of his status. At the front of the line stood two security officers, Mike and Dan, both looking slightly frazzled. Known among their colleagues for their strict approach, they prided themselves on being thorough, even if that thoroughness sometimes bordered on overzealousness. Earlier in the day, they had dealt with several impatient travelers, leaving them short-tempered and primed for confrontation. When Elon reached the front, Mike and Dan immediately clocked his casual attire. Without recognizing him, they exchanged a quick, skeptical glance. "Step forward," Mike said curtly, motioning toward the metal detector. Elon complied without a word, placing his duffel bag on the conveyor belt and walking through the detector. A loud beep echoed through the area, causing both officers to tense. "Empty your pockets," Dan ordered, eyeing Elon warily. Calmly, Elon pulled out his phone, wallet, and keys, placing them in a plastic bin. He walked through the metal detector again, only to hear another beep. "Sir, step aside," Mike said, gesturing toward a roped-off area used for secondary screening. Elon obliged, maintaining his composure despite the curious looks from nearby travelers. Some had begun whispering among themselves, realizing who he was and why it might be odd for him to be treated like a random suspect. Dan grabbed a handheld scanner, beginning a slow sweep across Elon's body. When the scanner beeped near his belt buckle, Dan scowled. "Remove your belt," he demanded, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. Elon removed his belt and handed it over. The officers continued to scan him, but found nothing out of the ordinary. "What's in the bag?" Mike asked, nodding toward Elon's duffel bag on the conveyor belt. "Just personal items," Elon replied evenly, offering no sign of irritation or impatience. "Open it," Mike insisted. Elon unzipped the bag, revealing some folded clothes, a laptop, and a few printed documents. The officers rummaged through the contents methodically, as though searching for something incriminating. "Is this really necessary?" Elon finally asked, his voice calm but firm. "We're doing our job," Dan retorted with a dismissive smirk. "You don't exactly look like someone who'd be flying first class." At that moment, a few passengers began recording the interaction on their phones. The buzz in the terminal grew louder as more people recognized Elon, whispering to one another and wondering how the officers could be so unaware of who they were dealing with. "I see," Elon said quietly. "Are we done here?" Before the officers could respond, a woman's voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me, what's going on here?" Karen, a middle-aged airport supervisor, approached quickly. She had been alerted by a concerned staff member who recognized Elon and was worried about how the situation was unfolding. As Karen reached the scene, her eyes locked onto Elon, and a flicker of shock crossed her face. "Mr. Musk, I'm so sorry for this inconvenience," she said, immediately adopting a more respectful tone. Mike and Dan exchanged bewildered looks. "Wait, you know this guy?" Dan asked, clearly puzzled. Karen turned to the officers, her expression stern. "Yes, this is Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX. A wave of realization washed over the two men. They had just harassed one of the most influential people in the world, all while passengers recorded every moment on their phones. Karen addressed Elon politely. "Mr. Musk, please allow me to escort you to the VIP lounge while we sort this out." Elon hesitated briefly before nodding. "Thank you," he said. His tone remained calm, but now there was a noticeable edge of finality in his voice. As Karen led him away, she shot a glare back at Mike and Dan. "We'll have a serious discussion about this later," she said firmly. The officers shifted uncomfortably under her stare, their earlier bravado evaporating. By the time Elon reached the VIP lounge, the story was already making waves on social media. Passengers who had witnessed the scene were posting videos, and within minutes, those clips began going viral under hashtags like #ElonMuskAirport and #AirportFail. Reactions ranged from outrage at the officer's behavior to praise for Elon's calm demeanor. In a public statement issued within hours, airport management apologized to Elon Musk for the inconvenience, announcing that an internal investigation would be launched immediately. Mike and Dan were placed on suspension while the investigation was carried out, and the videos of the incident continued to rack up millions of views online. In the days that followed, major news outlets covered the story extensively. Talk shows debated the officer's conduct, while commentators on business networks praised Elon for his dignified response. Some pointed out the broader lesson: never judge someone solely by their appearance, because you never know who that person might be or how influential they are. When asked about the incident a week later during a press event, Elon spoke with his usual composure. "It's important to treat everyone with respect and dignity," he said. "Sometimes it's easy to make snap judgments, but we should all aim to be a bit more open-minded." Meanwhile, the airport swiftly took action to prevent similar incidents. New training programs focusing on empathy, communication, and implicit bias were introduced for security staff. Management emphasized that every passenger, whether they were a billionaire, a backpacker, or anyone in between, deserved courtesy and professionalism. Months later, during a leadership seminar in Los Angeles, Elon was asked about the LAX incident once more. He smiled and said, "These moments are learning opportunities. We all have room to improve." His response drew applause from the audience, which included many airport executives who had been following the story closely. The confrontation became more than just a viral moment. It served as a catalyst for change at the airport. Under Karen's supervision, a renewed focus on customer service emerged. Team meetings began to highlight the importance of respectful interactions, regardless of a passenger's appearance or perceived status. As for Mike and Dan, after undergoing extensive retraining, they were eventually reinstated. Humbled by their experience and the backlash that followed, they began to share their story with new recruits, warning them about the dangers of letting frustration and bias override professionalism. Elon continued to travel frequently, though he still preferred to keep a low profile. The lessons learned from that day at LAX stayed with him as well. No matter how calm or composed you are, misunderstandings can happen at any time, and how you respond can have lasting repercussions. One day, nearly a year after the incident, Elon passed through LAX again. This time, the atmosphere at the security checkpoint felt noticeably different. Staff greeted passengers with genuine warmth, and procedures were handled with care. When Elon stepped up to the detector, an officer recognized him but treated him with the same respectful courtesy extended to everyone else. A few travelers whispered among themselves, recalling the viral episode from months before. But there was no drama this time, just a smooth process. The officer nodded politely to Elon, who nodded back and went on his way without issue. Looking around the terminal, Elon noticed small yet meaningful changes: improved signage, more helpful staff, and an overall sense that the airport was striving to be better. In a quiet way, it was a reminder that even a negative situation could lead to positive outcomes if people were willing to learn. As Elon boarded his flight, he smiled to himself, reflecting on how a simple misunderstanding had rippled outward, prompting significant reforms in one of the world's busiest airports. He thought about the power of small moments and the importance of remaining composed, no matter how challenging the circumstances. In the end, the story of Elon Musk's harrowing encounter with airport security became something of a legend, both online and within the aviation industry. It stood as a testament to humility, respect, and the notion that you should never judge a book by its cover. More than a cautionary tale about messing with someone famous, it was an enduring lesson about empathy and the unpredictable ways in which our actions can transform an entire institution. And so, life returned to its usual pace. Flights took off and landed, passengers came and went, and Elon Musk continued to dream of revolutionizing industries far beyond the realm of commercial aviation. But at LAX, the impact of that day lingered, quietly reminding every employee that each traveler passing through their checkpoint deserved equal respect, no matter what they wore or how unassuming they seemed at first glance.